All right, so we've got another YouTuber putting a movie in theaters. This time it's Chris Stuckmann giving us a supernatural horror mystery. So, can movie reviewers put their money where their mouth is and actually make a good movie? Or was Shelby Oaks a disappointment? Well, let's talk about it. Spoiler free. What is up, everyone? Welcome to Mad Blood. Now, first of all, let me know down in the comments down below if you've seen Shelby Oaks. What did you think about it? Did you enjoy it? Were you kind of in the middle? Did you not like it? Were you impressed with what Chris was able to do on such a small budget? Let me know. So first of all, hats off to Chris for just making a movie, not to mention the fact that the movie made it into theaters, raised as much money as it did. Regardless, it just takes balls to really put yourself out there and make art that inevitably, no matter how good the movie is, people are either going to hate it or they're going to enjoy it, and you're going to hear both sides of it. It's a vulnerable situation. So the story behind the development of Shelby Oaks is a couple years ago, it was made official that Chris was going to write and direct a horror movie. And on top of that, that movie was going to be crowdfunded, and his fans showed the hell up. I mean, they ended up raising over $1 million to get this movie made, which, is amazing. And in large part because of the help from Mike Flanagan, who it sounds like was a viewer of Chris's for many, many years. And then they just ended up talking, and Mike's ended up asking Chris, hey, is there anything you're writing and working on right now? I'd love to take a look at it. And with Mike's help, he also signed on as executive producer and helped get it picked up by Neon, which, is huge. And just overall, it's been a cool story, without a doubt. And again, just a reminder, this will be a spoiler-free review. So the plot of Shelby Oaks goes a little something like this. So a group of ghost hunting YouTubers go missing while investigating a haunted prison in the ghost town of Shelby Oaks. And one of the girl's older sisters becomes obsessed with finding her, but along that journey of tracking her down, she uncovers some pretty horrific answers to what happened. And early on in this movie, like I said, it's this group of these hosts of this ghost hunting show on YouTube. And we start off right away with this found footage angle. It's like, this is the last time they were seen alive. And I know that's something we've seen many times before, especially in the found footage subgenre. But regardless of that, I still really enjoy when movies take that angle to start things out. And initially, when I heard about the development of Shelby Oaks and I heard about what kind of a movie it was going to be, I always heard found footage. And for me personally, I was just thinking in my head, Chris, that's a great idea. That's always a good angle to take for your first horror movie, especially with a small budget like this. There's just so much you can do. There's so many angles you can go. There's so many things you can do that become very, very scary, but on a very small budget with found footage. And also just for me personally, being the older millennial that I am, I'm kind of the perfect age for found footage. I'm kind of the perfect age for somebody who you would think would be a found footage fan for the rest of their life. And I am a big found footage fan. I mean, people my age, we were the perfect age for movies like Paranormal Activity, The Blair Witch when they were coming out. Just that age where we were just vulnerable enough to believe some of this stuff, especially with Blair Witch and some of that marketing. And also just the fact that I camped a lot growing up. The Blair Witch Project scared the shit out of me as a kid. So just found footage in general, personally, I've always enjoyed. And just to talk a little bit more about that and a little bit more about the first half of this movie, I thought the structure in the first half of this movie was done pretty well. It was the structure kind of built around this mix of found footage, true crime, like a true crime documentary you'd see on Netflix or something like that. Very much that mockumentary style of filmmaking that when it's done well, it can not only be scary, but it can also be really effective for me. And I thought in the first half of the movie, they were actually doing that pretty well. But like I mentioned a second ago, all of a sudden they just kind of threw that away in the second half of the movie and just went a completely different route, which I understand why, and I understand the kind of blending of genres and kind of creating something unique to yourself. But I thought that was a little bit odd to me because that was one of the best parts of this entire movie. Now, a gripe that I do have, especially in the early stages of the movie, as they're telling us about what happened and they're showing us the investigations and all of that, there are some parts that kind of reminded me of the Terrifier franchise, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. But Whenever they cut to the news anchor who was telling us about what was unfolding on screen, honestly, it kind of felt like a high school video project. Very poor acting, and it also looked clearly like a fake news set. Honestly, if I was producing this movie or directing this movie and maybe we were in the editing phase or whatever have you, I would have immediately said, we got to take them off screen. This is not working. We just need to go the whole route of like just a voiceover with the little ticker bar at the bottom, which was unfortunate because there were a lot of moments up until that point in the movie where I genuinely thought the movie was punching above its weight class as far as the budget goes. It really seemed like the budget was bigger than it was in reality. They were really stretching that out really well. But they had a lot of these moments with these news anchors that just felt very, very cheap. And every time I saw it, it just kind of brought me back to reality and reminded me that, oh yeah, this is a $2 million low budget movie, which is what it is. Now I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything here, but there's a moment in the movie where somebody dies and blood sprays all over somebody that was next to them. And I have to ask Chris, what was the creative choice to have that person who had the blood sprayed on their face still have the blood on their face for literally hours after the event happened? Now, don't worry, I was alone in the theater, but I literally started laughing out loud. I couldn't help it, which never happens to me in a serious horror movie like this. So initially, I thought it was a little bit weird that this person still had blood all over their face as they were wheeling the dead body away. It was like, geez, toss them a wet towel or something. But then on top of that, we then cut to the nighttime. And this person is chilling on the couch with their significant other, and they still have blood all over the side of their face. And I'm not just talking about, just a few little spots or stains that maybe they couldn't get off or maybe they might have missed. No, it's like half of this person's entire face is covered in like these fresh puddles of blood. They even go upstairs and start doing something else and still have blood all over their face. If it was me, I would have wiped that off as soon as I possibly could. I'm like, what is really happening here? Is this some kind of weird coping mechanism that I'm not aware of? It was just so distracting. I couldn't pay attention to what was happening on screen, and there was a lot of stuff happening on screen that was pretty important, but I couldn't stop looking at their bloody ass face. Now, with that said, shortly after this, we do get one of the most effective scares in this entire movie. For me, it involves a TV and a glare from that TV. It's really quick, but I thought it was pretty effective, and that was a part that I definitely enjoyed. And throughout this movie, there are a few moments that I do think are less scary than that moment and less sudden, but kind of similar in the fact of they show just a little something in kind of a grainy film kind of a way where it's almost impossible to see it, but you can just barely make out sort of what it is, and it ties into the rest of the story, which personally I thought was pretty fun. There's a moment in this movie too where we're at a prison, and surprisingly, this whole prison scene actually looked really good, both outside and inside. And like I said, I was pretty surprised how good that actually looked. And there was some solid eeriness with that scene as well, which I thought was pretty effective. And honestly, overall, this entire movie actually looks really good. That's definitely a positive that I took away from this movie. The cinematographer that they have listed on this movie, his name is Andrew Scott Baird. So yeah, great job, dude. And another positive for me, and I remember thinking about this as I was watching the first half of this movie, and I'll give Chris credit. I thought the first half of this movie in particular had some things that definitely felt unique. It wasn't just like some of the regurgitated schlop that we sometimes see nowadays in the horror genre. Really in pretty much every genre of movies nowadays, but in particular in the horror genre, sometimes it just feels like a montage of like the typical tropes and jump scares that we've seen a million times before. But in the first half of this movie, there was something there that it felt like unique and a little bit different. And also, the sister in this movie, played by Camille Sullivan, I thought she did a solid job throughout most of this movie, especially considering the fact that the second half of this movie, not to spoil anything in particular, but in some ways, it's almost a solo act for her. Like, she is asked to do a lot in the second half, especially. And the movie really, in a lot of ways, hinged on that, because if she doesn't do a good job, this movie is going to be a complete flop. But I thought Camille actually did a very solid job throughout most of this movie, especially in that second half. Now, I've talked about this a little bit on my channel, but I don't watch movie reviews on YouTube anymore. And really, the main reason is not because I'm not going to enjoy them. It's really just because of my little brain. If I watch too many movie reviews on YouTube, it starts to bleed into my content. And I'm the type of person, I want my takes, my videos to be 100% unique as they can possibly be to myself. I want them to be my ideas, my thoughts, and not subconsciously kind of pulling in other people's opinions and ideas on the movies that I'm going to talk about. And honestly, I kind of hate it, but I guess on one hand, it saves me time because I don't spend a lot of my time watching YouTube videos. But on the other hand, I just have to deal with it because unfortunately, that's just the way my brain works. But with that said, over the years, I have seen a handful of Chris Stuckmann's reviews. I mean, the guy has something like 2,000 videos on his channel. YouTube says he's been making videos for the past 14 years. So obviously, this guy watches a lot of movies. My point is, I find it odd when filmmakers who know the space, have pretty much seen it all, but still don't have the awareness to know that their punchline at the end of their movie has been done 1,000 times before. I don't know, that just seems odd to me. And now I don't mean to sound harsh. I'm really just reviewing this movie. It's nothing personal at all, but 14 years of watching movie after movie after movie, dissecting them and reviewing them and talking about them, spilling your heart out about how bad you want to be a filmmaker and all of that. And I'm sure this script took some time to write and rewrite with the story. And that's the ending we come up with? I felt like the ending of Shelby Oaks was like a very tame version of the Conjuring movies at the end of those movies, or any of the spin-offs, or even like a very tame version of Rosemary's Baby, I guess. It just shows you, which could be the case for myself as well, that just because you love movies with every ounce of your soul and your body does not mean you have the ability to write a compelling story with a compelling ending to that story. It's just like if you love basketball and you've loved it your entire life and studied it and really enjoyed it forever. That doesn't mean you can hit 5 threes in LeBron's face in an NBA game. And that's okay. That doesn't mean Chris isn't capable of making a great story someday. He'll probably learn from Shelby Oaks, learn a lot from this experience, and just get better and better and better with his storytelling, which I hope he does. And again, there are some things in this movie that I do enjoy, and I really respect the hard work from the entire production that went into making this movie, getting it in theaters, and everything else that goes into that. And also, again, I just respect the fact that Chris was willing to put himself out there. I'm not saying any of this stuff in a mean-spirited way or anything like that. I'm just reviewing the movie, and in a movie review, I'm going to talk about the things that I like and the things that I don't like. You know, it's not mean-spirited. It's just a part of the game. And again, I thought with the second half of this movie, and especially the end of this movie, it just didn't work for me. It felt very generic. It just did not feel like anything unique at all. And honestly, I expected a little bit better. I thought all that momentum and everything that they were doing well in the first half of this movie, I felt like they just wadded it up in a ball and just threw it right in the trash can, and just for some reason went in a totally different direction. I think where this movie really excels is in the way this movie looks. I thought also some of the set design, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, was very solid. I thought the mystery in the first half of this movie was pretty solid overall. And I do think Chris should have really leaned into the found footage in the second half of this movie. Now, I get why he didn't. And I get with this story, with this ending, why found footage would have been hard to place in there. But still, I thought that was really working for him, and that is an angle that just really works for a low-budget, scary movie, because you can genuinely make things very scary on a very small budget. But once you start to throw in CGI and creatures and other things like that, or monsters, or whatever type of movie you go with, when you're trying to pull off these big, ambitious things on a small budget, it is very, very risky. Like a movie like Get Out, I mean, Jordan Peele has talked about this over and over again. He wanted to make the actors scary because he knew he couldn't afford monsters or CGI or creatures or whatever have you. And I think Chris should have really gone with that found footage angle and leaned into that for a $2 million movie. It could have really worked. But again, major props to Chris and the rest of the production for just getting this movie made. I wish everybody involved with this movie nothing but success on into the future. I mean, really, I'm just some jackass talking into a camera. But with that said, for me personally, I thought Shelby Oaks, it was just a miss for me. All right, everybody, that is my review of Shelby Oaks. If you want some more videos from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future videos on the channel, the best way to do that is to make sure you subscribe. Also, guys, do me a favor. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like on it. It really does help me out a lot. Also, all of my social media links are down below in the description. If you want to follow me over there, I've got my Twitch channel linked down there where I live stream sometimes, my Instagram, all that stuff. So go follow me over there. But always great to talk horror stuff with you guys, especially during October. So thanks so much for watching. But my name is Matt, and I will talk to you in the next one.